Hey, hi, Scott Russell. Wanted to just talk a little bit about my journey, a journey of faith, a journey of life, and really for the reason of I think there's some relevance to where we are and where things are going, and you can only talk about what you've earned the right to talk about. So you can have opinions on all sorts of things, but when you've lived it, it's something different. And so it may be a little long in the video. I'm not expecting a viral video sensation. But I'd like to connect my heart to yours today. And perhaps, perhaps we'll resonate together. And, I'm looking at the world and the economic situation of things that are going on. And the potential to lose everything. Everything that so many have worked for their whole lives, to be taken by men and women that think that they're doing whatever. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've lost everything and it's been at the mercy of somebody else who is completely unable to see any other perspective, completely unable to see or feel you. They just have the opinion that they are best, they know what's best, and they're doing what's best. And you need to follow along. And I think we're all the victims of that with the World Economic Forum. These men, whatever their women, whatever their motives are, they've probably convinced themselves that they're doing the best for the world, where, there's some legitimate concerns there that they're trying to address. And so they think that gives them the right to self-righteously bulldoze everybody else, because of course the person with the most toys is always right? The person with the most people around them is always right. That's the way man thinks, but it's not true. And so these men have gained financial, pinnacles in our world, and in a humanistic world where man worships himself, they do have the right to be where they are. But when man acknowledges a God, acknowledges a creator, acknowledges that there's a higher being, a higher power, a higher accountability that's beyond the influence of man, then things change. And so sometimes when you're at victim of people that, or somebody or something that has taken that stance, they decide they know what's best, they're going to tell you what's best, and everybody that'll listen to them, and maybe they have the position of trust, the position of love, where people look up to them and would never expect to be betrayed. And as they take that to themselves, and now, like the World Economic Forum and maybe other situations in your lives and mine, then people are able to look and say, well, look, everybody's with me, so we're right. And it validates and it feeds that. And the problem is when you're in our situation, where you're the other end of that, I'll turn my music down a little bit, when you're the one who is the victim, if you fall into the victim way of thinking, you're dead in the water. If you fall into thinking you're a victim even when you are a victim, you'll never get up. You'll have trouble getting up in the morning. Depression will be a real battle for you. Anxiety, fear. Because what's happening is people are trying to make the truth a lie and the lie truth. You can't do it. And so the harder you shove lies onto people to try to present it as a truth, it's a lot of work. Mentally, physically, emotionally, it'll destroy. And that's how I know the World Economic Forum and the men and women that are in charge there are having a lot of trouble. They got a lot of fear. Some of those men and women are not sleeping at night. They love the high of power. They love the high of, woo-wee, man, we're getting things done here. We're taking over the world. But when you're jamming a lie into your life, it has consequences. Anxiety, fear, isolation, depression. But when you live truth, initially truth, when it comes along, it fights for itself. Not initially, it always fights for itself. Truth is something that reigns, and it'll be the last man standing, the last thing standing every time. And unfortunately, when truth, not unfortunately, fortunately, but when truth comes into a world of chaos, it cuts right through. And I believe that's like the prophetic. It cuts right through all the lies and strips things bare. And of course, it's very confronting, and people don't like truth. They get mad at truth. They stick their fingers in their ears because it interrupts their normal, their comfort. But in truth, when you're the victim and you're living in that truth, it causes you to be misunderstood, misrepresented, abused, misused. And because the world will always believe the lie before it believes the truth, always. The worst thing you can do is get caught up trying to justify or vindicate yourself. Leave it to God. Leave it to God, and sometimes that takes some time. Stay in truth, because in truth you find there's some things that come with it. Life, freedom, joy. And when oppression and depression come, there's an answer and a way out. But when that comes with a lie, there is no way out. A lie sucks you down into the mud further and further, but the truth will liberate. The truth will set you free. For you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And whoever commits these wrong deeds is a slave to those deeds. But the Son came to set us free, meaning Jesus. That's my personal. I'm going to mention Jesus in here a little bit because he's been I have a different way of viewing it to much of religion today. And it comes from my personal experience, which I think we can unwrap here in a little bit. So truth, you've been the victim, you've been attacked, you're potentially losing everything, or you've lost everything. Trust me, I know the pain, I know the feeling. I've walked the walk. And as that happens, the Bible talks about a fire that comes and it consumes. And it says that every man's work is tried by fire, and what remains is of God. And when that fire comes through your life, it takes everything that's dear to you. Fire doesn't spare. Fire doesn't have compassion. Fire is not selective. When it arrives, it burns. And I live in Australia currently, and American too, but currently I'm in Australia. Australia knows its bushfires. When a bushfire comes through, everything's gone. But that which remains is of God. And maybe in your life you've had the fire of destruction come through. There's always a shoot of hope. There's always a little sprout that comes up. And after the bushfires here, the renewed growth comes back, and you can look at the devastation and focus on the devastation and how just that devastation is, or you can look at the sprout that comes and rejoice. And that's your choice. That's my choice. And that little sprout can grow, and I've seen it in my life where the little sprout starts to grow and you're celebrating, and all of a sudden somebody breaks it off. And it's devastating. You have to pick yourself up all over again. You've done it so many times, but here you are again, having to pick yourself up from utter destruction. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. But put your hope in the truth. Put your hope in life. I look at love and I say love is the most powerful force known to man. Love conquers all. Hate, anger, violence, it's all temporary. it all brings a destruction, and then it destroys the perpetrator and it destroys the victim often. But the victim can rise up, because it's not what enters into him that defiles him, is it? It's what comes out of you. And when you get attacked, it's not what goes into you that defiles you. It's what comes out of you. It's how you choose to respond. So I think as that fire comes, sweeps through everything, we start to see the sprouts. We rejoice in that. So right now our world is facing some major challenges. The fire's coming. Be ready. Be ready. It's going to come through, and it's going to take a lot of everything that's maybe special to everybody that they've worked so hard for. But as sure as there's a night and a day, there'll be a dawning, and in that dawning there'll be hope, and there'll be new life, and there'll be sprouts. These men are not our hope. They control the financial systems of the world, and they can shut it off whenever they feel like it, and they will. Because when you give somebody that power, they'll use it. They've proven that they don't have a heart of empathy and compassion. Psychopathically, they do what they feel needs to be done. And so then I found on my journey, as I got burned, the destruction came, something held me, and it was love. Not love from a person, not love from a thing, not even love from me, because when you've been told that you're worthless, that you're no good to us, you don't do anything for us, you haven't earned our love, it goes right to the soul of who we are and destroys. And maybe you've had that. You've been told you're not worth it. I think the most precious thing about that, in that destruction, new life comes when you trust in your Creator. And I found, for me, something held me right as I was crossing that line into complete blackness. I didn't know what was over that line, but right as I got to that line in a free fall, it's like jumping off a cliff, right? And yeah, not that I've jumped off a cliff, but I can imagine that as you jump, you're falling, and at first you think, oh, I'm free. You jump off a cliff and think, oh, this is freedom. I'm alive. This is fantastic. But then when you realize that you're not actually flying, you're falling. And I know someone that jumped off a cliff with the attitude of like, I'm flying, I'm free. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. As you jump off that cliff, eventually what starts to come in is the realization that I ain't flying, I'm falling. And when you fall and that ground's coming, and when it was for me, and I got to that point where I should have hit, something held me. An unseen force. And I was like, what is this? I don't even know. Why I should have hit. I should have gone over that line to the blackness of I don't know what was over that line other than just unparalleled, crippling fear. Hell. Something held me, and I remember I didn't have the strength to stop. It made no sense to my brain. As I looked at it, I was like, what? I could feel this love. All the love did was held me. I remember looking at it and just going, man, why? They've all told me I'm trash. The whole world has turned on me. What was my world? But in that, there was this immense love of silence. And I surrendered to it. I didn't really have a choice. It was my only way forward, and it was a choice. But why would you run from love when you've had a world of being spat on? And from that point on, my life was renewed. I surrendered to that love. I asked that love to fill my life. It wasn't dependent on what I'd done or hadn't done or could do or should do. There was no actions involved in it. It was unconditional. I'd found for the first time in my life unconditional love. The first time in my life, a love that said nothing that you do influences it. It just loved me, and I discovered it was God. was very unsettling, because as I looked at it, I was like, why? I'm not good enough for you, God. And there was silence, just love. And I got the understanding came to me that unconditional love is just there. There's nothing you can do to change that. The love of a mother and a father, often. Only our worldly mothers and fathers are not capable of loving, I don't think, but not unconditionally, without a move of God in their life. But we love our kids. You love your kids, doesn't matter what they do, you still love them. You still love them. And that's what God became to me. He became his child, where he was saying, Scott, I just love you. I love you. From that point on, I felt that little sprout just started to grow and grow and grow and grow, and things started to blossom, and things came around my life. And it's a path you walk alone many times, but it changed my whole perspective. I used to be a minister, a pastor, Christian non-denominational type churches, and I found the system just didn't do it. I loved God and I loved people, so I didn't want to be involved in the system. But what I found was church came. I had church with unconditional love. And then those that were in the same spirit started to come, and we run a meeting. We do sometimes. There's no set group of people. It's just those of like spirit, and the freedom movement understands that. So somebody got onto me the other day, and I'm talking a bit, but it's my heart. Somebody called me from the freedom movement the other day, and they were like, and they don't know. Well, they were discovering God. And this person said, I talked to God and asked him for something, and it happened. And he's trying to understand love. You can't understand that unconditional love. And I said to him, mate, it's just like coffee. I said, if God's the water, Jesus, my view on Jesus, he did away with the restrictions of sin and said, when you're in freedom, you're free. Religion makes an industry of sin, but Jesus came to set us free. And when you step into that freedom of Christ, you're free. You're not conditionally free, you are free. So anyway, I said that water of God, the Holy Spirit we'll call it, is the water. And we're a coffee bean. We start out as a coffee bean, and we know we've got some great flavors and things in there, but as we start in life, we really don't know how to tap into any of that, do we? Little bits of it here and there, but life has a way of sticking us in this coffee grinder. Of course, often we blame God for the coffee grinder. But we go in that coffee grinder where that fire comes and we lose everything. It's just burned. We are crushed, beaten. It's like we don't even know what we look like anymore. It's like, what am I? Who am I? How can I move forward? What is life? And then all of a sudden, this Creator takes those coffee beans that when we let him, when we surrender, stop fighting, trying to be the bean, just be the bean. He puts us in that coffee maker and runs his water through it. And as his water comes through it, what comes out the other side is fused coffee. And that's good for something. You're good for something. I'm good for something. So in my life, when unconditional love hit me, I surrendered to that. I said, all right, let's fuse. Because I don't have the strength to do this anymore. I don't have the strength to do what Scott thinks is a good idea. I don't have the strength to move forward when it's coming from me, but when it's coming from the coffee in me, the fused God Scott, I love it. And I believe that's where this freedom movement comes, and I have so much hope in this because I've seen 20 years ago a vision of this, that I know we win. I know that this is people finding freedom in beautiful ways. And that's your invitation, and that's my invitation today. And so, to me, as Jesus died on that cross, it was really only to buy us the right to become coffee. And like I say, the church makes an industry of that, right and wrong. And that's earned love. That's not love. That's a type of love, I guess, but it's not unconditional love, and I'll have the unconditional love any day over that. So when I fail and I'm not good enough, and I look at God and go, you wouldn't want me, He just smiles. Says, my child, I love you. And that's what gives me the strength to wake up in the morning. So I'll do another video, maybe if there's any interest in that. And I invite you, if you want to interact, send a video back or ask questions or whatever. Let's just have freedom over this. Freedom over this. My thing is with religion is it's always a works. So New Age, all that stuff. It's always self-betterment. Me. I can get better if I do this. I can get stronger if I do that. It's all based in actions, isn't it? It's not based in abandonment. It's not based in saying, I give up. I can't do it. I can't do this thing called life. I give up. And when I give up, I'm saying, God, I give it to you. If you are real, if you are a God, if you are there, take my life. I surrender to you. I surrender my heart, my being, my actions, every part of my life. I give to you, and I have no strength to do anything but what you give me the strength to do. And then for me, it was Jesus. You bought me that right. And all you did on that cross was did away with the actions of sin. See, when we don't know Jesus, we don't do sin. We are sin. And when we have become coffee, we've become righteousness. So even if we do something that's wrong, it doesn't affect that love. It doesn't affect that coffee in us. Because, think about it. It's God romance, isn't it? You love somebody and you're in a flow of life with them. They don't have to tell you, don't, I'm a man. Don't sleep with other women. Well, if I had that woman that was there in my life and she wouldn't have to tell me, go and don't sleep with other women. I'd be like, I don't want to. I've got the romance of life. I want to sit and look at sunsets with you and walk on mountains and just laugh and just enjoy who you are and the day and the beauty of the moment. Nobody has to step in and say, oh, you make sure when you do that you don't, smoke, drink, go out with naughty girls. I think you freedom folks get it. The government steps in and says, we're going to give you freedom if you do these actions. And we're going, I am free. I feel freedom in me. You can't define that. That's the call of God. That's God saying to you, that's not what you do, it's who you are. You can, as you surrender to freedom and say, yes, freedom. Yes, God. Yes. And that's what Jesus did to me. He didn't die on a cross so that somebody can tell me right and wrong. He died on a cross so I could be in a romantic flow with him of unconditional love. And in that unconditional love, stuff just falls off me that shouldn't be there. And what is there. And what a beautiful journey, spiritual journey. And that's my word for you today. I'm inviting you. God's inviting you. Come and be church with us. Because church is not coming to a meeting. Church is entering that spirit of unconditional love that's just there all around you. Just surrender to it. Just say, God, take me. Take it. I'm yours. I'm done. I'm trying to work my way to being somebody good. That's why I hate about these self-help things. Yeah, self-help, it's always at everybody else's expense. But when it's unconditional love, it's beautiful. Hey, enough said. I don't even know you folks, but the fact that you're loving this, I know I'm watching this, and I know we're of the same spirit. I love you already, and I'm looking forward to the day we can dance spiritually together and I get to meet you. God bless you.